I exist beyond space and time.
Well done.
Oh guys, Sadie here, and today we're gonna be talking about Diggy. You may not know, but I reached global tier with Diggy. Still, I don't feel it's like a big achievement because this hero is just trash. So in my last tier list video back from December, I said Diggy is tier C and it's still valid. And I don't want this video to be something where I just share a bunch of negative stuff. Still, I need to start with highlighting some bad things, and then I'm gonna give some proposals or recommendations how we could make Diggy viable again. So when I said global Diggy, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like a big thing. I had her up on 1.3k or something, but honestly speaking, guys, all I wanted to achieve is like getting the level 35 badge with Diggy, and that's it. And by doing that, I ended up being global, which is kind of weird. But there are reasons why players don't play Diggy. You know, she's not viable, and I'm gonna explain why. So flankers, generally speaking, should be getting behind the enemies or get past them or somehow surprise them from the side, from the back. And with Diggy there are a bunch of problems. Let's start with her active, the swimming ability, the shark form, because kind of that's the ability you should be using to get behind the enemy, right? But she's not invisible. She can still receive damage, and the swimming ability makes her slightly faster, but it's not like incredibly fast. So in most cases, the enemies are gonna actually spot you while you are trying to swim behind them. Compared to Shell, for example, who becomes invincible and invisible, like Diggy's shark form is like crap. But let's assume you get behind the enemy, okay? Still, you would need another active to be available to swim close enough to the enemy to do a simple kill. But that's not always the case. I had several moments where I could swim behind the enemy. I was having two enemies in front of me. I think it was Gloria and Scotty, and I could kill Gloria actually, but then Scotty just turned around and like one-shot me. What is this? Like, survivability with Diggy is like incredibly bad. And there's actually one more thing. You cannot use her active while you're jumping. And what I'm doing is I'm jumping around to make it harder for the enemies to hit me. And while I'm jumping, I cannot use her active. What is this? So comparing Diggy to Aleta, for example, who cannot just jump, she can double jump actually, and while doing the double jump, she can also dash. So it's not a surprise that people are picking Aleta and Shell over Diggy. And I would even add Ya, because you know guys, Ya is one of my favorite heroes. But Diggy is different. In many cases, I had the feeling that I could only land the kill because of the enemy not being skilled enough or not being good enough to hit me before I do so. And I'm talking about the cases where I'm next to them or behind them, because like swimming in front of them, swimming in front of a Gloria or a Hunter, like you're instantly dead. So that's not even an option. You always need to swim behind them. And now we're gonna transform this video into a positive thing with a lot of positive vibes, because I have some nice recommendations for Diggy. First off, I would give her like a secondary weapon, like a sniper, you know, something that doesn't hit like super hard. I'm not saying give her the Osa sniper, but give her something to allow her to deal damage from a distance. I think that would be a nice change to Diggy. Fix the active jump issue. So let me jump around while I'm swimming in active form, and also let me trigger the active while I'm jumping. It's like a lifesaver, because if I'm jumping around and I need to escape, then I actually need to wait until she lands on the floor before I can press my active. So that's change number 2. Instead, just swimming on top of the floor. Maybe she could be somewhat invisible, or maybe just show her shark fin, like, you know, to make it harder for the enemies to see you. Or there could be something like swimming under the floor and like shadow stepping behind the enemy, like targeting an enemy, and if you press your active again, you would appear behind that enemy. Something like this would be super cool for Diggy. Reviewing her ultimates, I think the first one is like complete trash. It's like very situational. You hit the enemy or you don't hit them, so it's like fun, but at the same time I wouldn't ever use that in competitive gameplay. The second ultimate is much better, but it still has issues. Let's call it the cage, okay? So if you put up your cage, your shark cage, then enemies get stuck, but not always. I had moments where I felt like I stunned all of them, and then I'm gonna have easy kills, and it didn't go as planned, so they got me because they got unstuck or whatever, and they just killed me. That's one thing. Second thing is that it should be like higher, and it should always be placed on the floor, so it doesn't make sense that your ultimate is up on top if you're pressing it while you're jumping. And third, there should be some kind of default AoE damage, like little sharks biting their feet from the bottom or something. Comparing her second ultimate with Judex's fire, I would say that I want to see something similar to that, but instead of that huge damage, maybe less damage, like the little shark damage, and on top slowing them down or stunning them. That would be incredibly cool. With applying 2 or maybe all of the changes I mentioned, Diggy would become a killing machine. Maybe she would be the strongest flanker in the game. And honestly guys, I don't really understand why don't we have like more dramatic hero balancing changes, and kinda that's the reason why I'm not really doing hero tier lists, because there are no significant changes. Even if a hero is being balanced, that hero is either still very strong or remains to be very weak. And what I don't understand is Diggy has these high-end skins. 2 of them are available from the arcade, and why Diggy? I mean, Diggy is the least played flanker. Maybe she's competing with Vincent, but why Diggy? Why don't we have the super awesome skins in the arcade for the heroes that are actually most widely played? I don't get it. So as you know, there are a couple of things which I don't agree with on T3 side. So I think hero balancing should be something that has higher priority, and obviously after fixing bugs and all that stuff. Recently I talked about 5 versus 5, and don't get me wrong, I think new stuff is always welcome, but the amount of changes and new features that are being added to the game is just too much. So instead, spamming the game with new features and constantly changing stuff, I would rather want to see something that is more stable. And that was also the reason why I didn't really publish videos in the last 2 weeks. I was looking around, I was checking some games. I was checking Valorant on PC because I want to get prepared for the Valorant Mobile launch. I was checking Arena, Breakout, Project Evo or Evo, because on the long term I really need to have a plan B. So what if T3 Arena goes south? What if the growth actually stops? There are a lot of ifs and a lot of question marks around T3 at the moment, and a lot of frustration in the community. And if a game is in trouble or a hero is just simply bad, I'm not gonna say the opposite. So to summarize Diggy, I would say that if I would need to rate her, I would give her at the moment a 6 out of 10, maybe a 5. So, and this is going to be my closing thought. I don't recommend you to play Diggy. I pushed her to global so you don't have to, okay? If some of the changes are gonna be applied, I'm gonna change my mind, but for now, I still feel Diggy is one of the weakest flankers in the game. Thank you for watching my video, and if you want me to review another hero from the game and share my personal opinions and not the opinion you want to hear, like the honest truth, then leave a comment which hero that should be, and I'm happy to talk about that hero like with brutal honesty. Have a nice day and see you in the next one. Bye.